S.T. Coleridge had the most powerful mind among English Romantic poets. There is the glamour of the unknown areas with the element of mystery enveloping them in a much finer form than most of the poets like Scott or Byron. His bold employed of marvelousness without even the decent reason of allegory or personification, the critics such as Lamb wrote about the poem, I dislike all the miraculous aspects in it, but the feeling of a man under the oppression of such scenery pushed me along like a Tom Piper magic whistle. Southey called it a very Dutch attempt of sublimity, where, as Wordsworth states, the mariner had no character, nor has he. He is only a spirit that has been alone on a wide, wide ocean. In spite of a particular discordant notes from different critics, most of them have been given the highest appreciation to the poem at all times. Coleridge believed largely in the effect produced by psychological truth. He offered to subdue the supernatural and refine it maximum scenery, atmosphere, even the coloring of the face and the rhyme concur in giving to the supernatural the natural unity of a possible experience. The long drawn horror created through the scenes and surroundings, like ghost spark approaching the cursed ship. Coleridge felt that these hideous events of the grave only detracted from the finer terror of the voluptuous beauty of the white devil, the nightmare life in death, and thus he reduced artistically the terror of death. The poem consists of ample illustration of the power of provoking the sympathy of the reader by a faithful following to the originality of the nature. Coleridge always loved nature and has a deep sense of her beauty in shapes and sound. The sudden fate, accidents of light and shade which moonlight and sunset diffused over a known and a familiar landscape. His words and narration have bold nakedness of sculpture of the Eden, the clarity and simplicity of vocabulary never fell. The magically wonderful, the vision made true, is suggested and described in words that have been chosen with an art that hides art. Coleridge get over the difficulties by just vividness of the imaginary and tree's power of descriptive phrase. The appreciation of the elaborate traits which make the poem a great could be realized in the word of trail According to him, in the ancient mariner, his eye never appears to be diverted from his object. And again and again, the scene starts out upon the canvas in 2 or 3 strokes of the push. The skeleton ship with the dicing monster, two figure on its deck, sinking sun looking through its ribs as if though a Duggan grate. The water snakes under the moon says, with the elfish light falling off them in a hoary flakes. When they read the dead crew who work the ship and raise their bodies like lifeless tools, everything appears to have been actually seen, and we believe it all as the story of truthful eyewitness. The description of the journey too are chronicled with such order and regularity. There is such a diary-like air about the whole thing that we admit it almost as it were a series of things from the ship's log. Then again, the execution, a great things to be said of such a long poem in marvelously equal the whole. The story never drags or flags a while. Its felicity of diction are continuous. It is carry marred by a single weak line. Perfect consistency of plan, in short, and complete equality of execution, bravery, self restraint, and an unerring feeling of artistic property. These are the main notes of the Hine of Ancient Mariner, as they are not the main notes of any other poem of Coleridge. In the view of Swinburne, the poem is beyond doubt one of the supreme victory of the poetry. He writes, for the execution, presume no human eye is too dim to see how good it is, and how high in the kind of perfection. There is not the elaborated finish that reveal everywhere the fresh wraps of the file and it's smooth. This is perfect after the fashion of a flower or a tree. But Coleridge clarified that the poem had too much of the moral lesson, while Stopford Brooke says the poem illustrates the simple religion of the Coleridge. Its religion is all possessed in the phrase, "He prayeth well who loved well, both man and bird and beast." On this, the chains are rung throughout. The futile killing of the bird is offense. The other mariners who support the killing of the birds are even worse sinners than the ancient mariner. They are deadly punished while he lives to tell and report his wrong. About the simple moral, Mr. Oliphant remarks, and then comes the ineffable, half childish, half divine simplicity of the soft illusion at the end, so strangely different from the honor of the tale, so wonderfully perfecting its visionary strain. After all, the poem seems to say, after this tiring excursion into the vast, deepest trouble, heart of the seas and mysteries, here is your child, moral, tender, half-futile sentiments, yet profounded as a blue depth of water. While going through the different observations and comments of great many thinkers and critics, we may arrive at a particular conclusion to draw out the specific characteristics of the poem as to how this ancient mariner, as it has been conceived and narrated, should have a certain story with appropriate dramatic action, verbal music, a scenic setting, an undefined element of feeling, moral tone, and mystery as well. Therefore, we may consider the following main features of the poem to justify it to be a great. The shape of the ancient mariner is that of a ballad. A ballad is a narrative song or poem generally telling a single dramatic happening in a shape suitable for singing or rhyming chanting. It is characterized simplicity of language, clarity of expression, directness of narration, abrupt transitions, the use of archaic words and repetition of phrases, lines to attain cumulative influence. There is ample use of conventional figures of speech and descriptive glitches. The poem Ancient Mariner could pass through such a study. The poem Ancient Mariner is highly simple, which approaches most closely to a prosic. The sun came up upon the lap, out of the sea came her. Coleridge is successful in avoiding that extreme of weakness to which ballad sometimes fail. His language is never beyond poetry. In this poem, a few of the details of nature, though presented with a great briefness, are very clear. They capture the very gist of a natural phenomena in the minimum word, and portrayal became clear, as in these few lines. The sun rims dip, the star rushes out. At one side came the dark. Sometimes the description depicts the weirdness with the sense of color interplay while decorating scene of happily sincerity of nature. Such a description of nature are found in the old ballad, but in the ancient mariner it is unique. Sudden introduction of new element in the very start of the poem, we see the direct and abrupt introduction of the mariner at the and the wedding guest. As per the line suggested, it is an ancient mariner, and he stopped one of three. By thou, long grey beard and glittering eyes, now wherefore stop thou me? Coleridge avoids the direct description but makes the word address to do this work. The spectre ship, death and life, life in death, the pilot and he pilot boy all make the abrupt appearance. Nature also exposes a different facets without any primary suggestion. The violent storm overtakes the mariner as unexpectedly as later the spirit torments them. These sudden dreams like transitions add to the dramatic quality of the poem and make it more influential. As unusual irregularity may be seen in the Ancient Mariner as it is found in the flock ballad, but it is the purpose and calculated in it. Coleridge could deal these irregularities masterly to create direct impact. The mariner has not been given a particular personality, though the mariner tells the story, the impact on the reader is of an almost impersonal narrative. The speaker tells nothing of who he is and little of what he performs. He is a found soul passing through a peculiar